you sit back sometimes. Oh my God, this sound back in the days when I listened to the Tire and Bass album,
Yeah.
sounding so shriek and unbelievable, not me.
Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Belgian Jasper. If this is your first time in the channel, hit subscribe right now. Ralf of Primal Fear, thank you so much for your time today. I've been looking forward to this. You're a person I've wanted to interview for a long time. I grew up with many of your bands. Probably first listened to you when you were still a Gamma Ray, but we are going to talk about the fact that you guys have the deluxe edition of the first Primal Fear album. So my first question has to be, Primal Fear, one of the most consistent bands in the metal industry. You know, you can almost put your watch to when a new album is going to be released. Yes. Just released a very strong album that is still newish, that you're still going to be touring. I know it's the 25th anniversary of the band. Is there any other reason that now is the right time for this reissue?
Yes, I mean, because we also changed record company, which is somehow the same family with all our friends back from Nuclear Blast, now are all in Atomic Fire.
Exactly.
And exactly the reason why now we have the 25th. We set this special candy for the fans with the bonus tracks, 2 live tracks, and the Breaker tribute we did years ago.
Yeah,
that was somehow the initial idea to do that package too, and remaster it. That's also a good thing that we remastered everything in Denmark with Jacob, our master.
yeah.
So that was quite fun to do about the idea to have that.
For sure. I mean, I assume a lot of people are making the joke in the Primal Fear camp that when you guys released your Nuclear Fire album, that was a little bit of a, seeing the future with Nuclear Blast and Atomic Fire, given your history with both these labels.
Coincidental, because I remember writing the song title without thinking about Nuclear Blast. It was just coincidental, yeah. But it was somehow groundbreaking albums in terms of change of my look with the hair and everything. So everything came together on that third album.
As I got to listen to the new version of the album, it just hit me again, I would say, how Matt's bass is one of the most recognizable basses in heavy metal. Does it just require, his bass and your singing at the end of the day, with all the respect for all the people that have been involved over time. But if we hear Matt's bass and your singing, we know this is Primal Fear.
Yeah, and Tom's guitar. So that's the Colonel who started back in the days. We started as a 3-piece at the beginning, and then of course another guitarist came in as a 4-piece. Sorry, that's of course Klaus. I'm gonna forget the drummers, who was very important, Klaus, and a nice guy as well. So we started as a 4-piece, and the second guitarist came in for the second album, then for Joy's Death. And I just can tell you a little bit about the background, how that happened. I mean, I was out of Gamma Ray because of the Judas Priest application, which did not happen, and so forth. Everybody knows the story.
Yeah.
And I was doing nothing, and the guys invited me to sing some choirs for the Sinner album, which was recorded back in the days.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, we sat together and had this conversation. The guy said, "You can't just sit around doing nothing. We have to compose songs," and that's what we did. So we recorded those 4 tracks, which were Chainbreakers, Silver and Gold, 9 Lives, and Dollars. I remember. I think it was Tears of Rage as well. And then we sent a cassette to Japan back in the days, and the guys from JVC were waiting for me anyway for material, and we had a record deal right away. Then the competition in Europe started. The companies were really fighting together, and this is a great position to start from. Sure. Right? So we were really lucky and happy that everybody was standing behind us from the industry and from the people from the record companies.
Yeah,
and that's going on until now. Those guys are still now with Atomic Fire, and that's why it's also a great team somehow.
Yeah, it's almost like coming home, if you will. That you mentioned a couple of those songs. I think on the first album, there are some songs that you can, it's almost like still a transition from Sinner to what Primal Fear eventually becomes. Silver and Gold for me is one of those songs that it could have been a Sinner song,
Yes, I mean, you hear there's a combination of our talents in terms of writing and as musician, so everybody's bringing in ideas, and the other musicians who don't have the ideas but also play on the album, for me, always have their soul in the album as well. For me, they are writers too, because they bring in their souls. I don't write the lyrics as a vocalist. I go into the story and deliver it, of course. And it's the same with the other guys. When they hear my ideas in the end, they try to go into my story. So that's pretty much a teamwork, no matter what you come up with. So in the end, everybody's involved in the song.
Before we go further, a question that I actually always wanted to ask you, and I don't think I've ever read the answer anywhere. Most of the albums are obviously, we see the Steel Eagles of Primal Fear on the cover. Apart from the Steel Eagles, as many mascots, do they or it have a name?
I think people, I think we had a quest out there once, and people were asked to name the eagle. I don't even know what came out.
Okay.
I don't know what came out with. What's the name of the eagle now? For me, it's still a metal synonym of a metal eagle with liberty and power, and stands for heavy metal, right?
I mentioned your previous album as we started talking, Metal Commando, nickname of the band as well. You've got a lot of recent material, and then now you've got this, renewed edition that the fans are very happy about. You're already working on new album as well. The world is slowly but steadily, depending on where you are, opening up, and we're seeing more tours here. North America, the last few months have been crazy, with almost every night there's a show if you're in a decent sized city. Primal Fear is gonna be on stage again soon, and often. What is that gonna look like? Are you still gonna be kind of putting, resuming the promotion of the last album, or should we expect some more celebration of the 25th anniversary as well?
Both. I mean, we did not have the chance to tour with Metal Commando.
Exactly.
The lockdown was there, and now we're already in a phase of where we should record a new album. And then, of course, there comes the bad thing that one member is ill. As you know, Matt is still very ill, and that also is somehow keeping us away from playing live, because we are a pretty much loyal team and want to have him with us playing live.
Of course.
And in the end, that's why maybe we now first release a new album, we produce that album, and it's going to take a while. Everybody has good ideas. We collected many ideas already, but it takes a while to bring everything together in one pot.
For sure.
And we wait until Matt is back from the hospital, and then we have a big, huge meeting, and then we talk about everything.
Okay. Now that you mentioned producing and, kind of puzzling the ideas together, it's something that you've done more than your fair share of as well over the years, not just for Primal Fear, but for other bands as well. At the same time, you've been a guest as a singer on many albums as well. For you, what is, in the world of studio work, what for you is the biggest passion right now? Is it the singing of other people's? If you had to choose between singing somebody else's song or producing somebody else's album, what would you?
Everything is interesting, and you can learn from everything, right? So that's why I'm producing albums. That's why I'm producing other vocalists in my studio. That's why sometimes I miss a little bit to be more creative on my own songs, because I'm so busy with other stuff. But I'm a full-time musician, so I have to fill my fridge. And of course, everything I do, I don't want to just do something which I'm bored or can't, or just, I have to do this because it's a job. That's not me, right? So I always go into these songs and feel them and live in them as well. As a vocalist, you have to do. So, but it keeps me busy, and it's good to be busy after the lockdown, when we all were suffering so much in terms of playing live. Now everything is opening up again, and that's what we miss in Primal Fear. But everybody also does his own little side projects and so forth. Which is totally legal and totally normal that everybody has to do this in terms of surviving as a musician.
with all that said and done, would you still always choose the stage over the studio, or have you found a new love for a studio?
It depends. It's really, both is interesting, you know.
Yeah.
In the studio, you can be so creative and you can be happy after hours of working, hearing the result, and be just happy about it, you know. That's somehow the reward you have listening to it afterwards, sounding great already, because nowadays you have great gear already in your home studio, which already sounding like albums years ago.
Yeah.
So and the live part, of course, I never want to miss, to interact with the people, the adrenaline and everything. So nobody wants to miss that as a live musician, right? So, but in terms of touring, my singing is pretty hard because I'm singing loud, screaming and everything. So after 2 or 3 months of touring, I can really feel a difference of the very first day to the, let's say, 35th show. But that's normal to every singer. So then it starts, my thinking starts, oh, I want to go home again. Not only because of my physical somehow strainment, also because of I'm missing my people here and my family.
Yeah.
So that's always this two sides of the story, right?
Now, I want to ask you a question that you kind of teased yourself in the beginning. I think you're probably sick and tired of people asking you, like, when the early days and this Judas Priest thing and what have you.
Whenever people are curious, I'm not sick and tired, so that's why.
Very good. So I mean, regardless of what happened or didn't happen in the 90s, the moment that listeners first heard you on Highway Nights of Tyrant Pace, people would have gone like, oh yeah, inspired by Halford for sure. Is that the fact that, like, now almost, I don't want to scare you, but almost 40 years later, people are still saying, oh yeah, like, sounds like a more varied Rob Halford or a more powerful Rob Halford. Is that at this point, after 40 years, you're sick and tired of that, or is that still a pretty cool compliment to get, even though?
Actually, it's both. Yes, it's a compliment to be compared to one of the best metal screamers in the world.
Right.
And on the other hand, I mean, also people know, and they can really distinguish. They distinguish my style already, because I have a different flavor. Because when it comes to the belting thing, Jasper, it's always somehow it's a technique, right? If you're listening to opera singers, the technique is always there. It also sounds similar, and that's the technique behind it. I mean, Tate, Rob, and the screaming voices, it's a certain kind of style, which is a technique, and it sounds similar, of course, right?
You also offer singing lessons yourself, right? Yes. Is there anyone that you've had the chance to work with, they go like, wow, this is pretty amazing, and people should be keeping their eyes open or ears open?
Yes, there's some guys really great. A guy from America, his name is Nick, and he's a great vocalist. I mean, yeah, absolutely. And I had some here in my studio as well, where they already now started own careers, and I have good singers. And I'm also working in a music school where young people 8 to 15 to 16, 17 come in, and you can really tell that the guys are listening to many kinds of music.
Yeah.
And the hearing alone teaches a lot. That's what happened actually to me in the 80s when I listened to the new wave of British heavy metal. And I also consider Accept and Scorpions, they're German, but
for sure, yeah,
the same block. But when you listen to stuff, the ear is really somehow teaching you already a lot. And whenever you are so musically talented, you can always somehow adapt and transform into your own style. Yeah.
You mentioned Accept and Scorpions, two bands that at different times have announced their retirement, announced their last album, and then always, we just had a new Scorpions album. We recently had a new Accept album. Scorpions are headlining festivals all over Europe this summer. These guys are now some of them in their 70s, well in their 70s. You've been working at this for almost 40 years now as well. Is that the shining light that you are gonna follow, or what's if we forget? We first want to make sure that Matt gets healthier, and then that you guys can get touring, and that's the immediate next step. But long term, what are those challenges that you still want to go after?
I totally relate, because you are addicted to whatever you do.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if maybe you can compare it a little bit to sex. Whenever you start it, you never can stop somehow. No matter how old you are, but it's always you're addicted to the kind of stuff. And like I said before, you need the audience, and you need the studio work to be creative, and you need to be in front of the audience, giving it back to them, or also taking it back from them somehow. And it's a give and take. And I think as a successful musicians like they are, you have to do this until you die.
Yeah.
Same here.
Is that just to bring it back to you guys, the fact that sure it's remastered, the new but both your the final, or sorry, not the final, the last studio album that you released, and then now this remastered album, does that somehow surprise you that after all these years they are relevant albums in a genre that is now more popular than ever? Did you ever think that would be the case in 2022?
Not really, because you don't think that way as a musician. You just, when an album comes out, for us musicians, it's old already. We've been listening to it
for sure
100,000 times before it's going to released. But of course, we're really curious about the reactions of the people, because that's somehow the first rewards you get.
Yeah.
People having their opinion on the song, But whenever it comes out, you want to play it live, of course, and then go into the next step. It's an ongoing thing. It's always keep going.
Yeah.
And you always want to improve. That's the next thing. It's you always want to improve somehow, and we got to do this different next time, and that, and this and that. But now we're in a position where we're so happy with sounds and everything. Everybody knows how he wants to sound on the album, and how the mix is supposed to sound. And we have a great team together with all the guys working for us also. So that's a great good thing about it nowadays.
Does that mean that now that you've had the chance to remaster that first album, and obviously every other album is gonna have their 25th anniversary, are you one of those people that goes back to old albums, go like, if only I could have changed that, and now I might be able to? So this is not
but it starts with recording. You can't change so much when you remaster. You can somehow polish up in the high ends or in low ends, or somehow tweak out some disturbing stuff maybe, but you can change rudimental sounds in mastering, So, but of course you sit back sometimes, oh my god, this sound back in the days when I listened to the Tire and Bass album, sounding so shriek and unbelievable, not me. re-record these tracks, But hey, it's history, and it's all done, so
Exactly. It's part of everybody now. Ralf, I wish I could ask you a million more questions, but we're running out of time quickly.
Yes, I have to do the next video.
Exactly. But I have a feeling that in 5 years from now, you'll have 3 new Primal Fear albums, a new Scheepers albums, and maybe 2 more re-releases. So I look forward to the next time I get to ask you some questions. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I wish, obviously, Matt well, and hope to see you guys on the stage very soon.
Thank you very much.
You are awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it, and subscribe to the channel.